Have you ever heard those noises around your home late at night? Sounds of moving around, but you write it off as the neighbors? Or the creaking walls as the whole place settles? Yeah, I've heard them too. All the time, actually. Sometimes it's a bit creepy, but usually I don't think much about it. That's what I was thinking when I first heard the sounds at night. It was 3 years ago, and I was sitting in my apartment bedroom playing video games. I remember the game was Dark Souls, because there's quite a bit of that game that can be fairly quiet when there's not a lot of action happening. My wife was half awake in the bed behind me, watching me play from my fold-out chair I used to play games. I didn't like sitting on the bed. It was too far away, especially with a sleepy wife I would have to share it with. Every time I turned back from my chair, she was drifting off a little bit more each time. About half an hour, I heard the soft, rhythmic sounds of snoring. I checked and saw that she had fallen asleep. I smiled and continued playing quietly. Then I heard other noises. It sounded like someone was walking up and down the stairs, very faintly. It would be quiet for some time, and then I would hear something else, very faint, very distant. A few more muffled steps, somewhere in the apartment. Now, I lived next to a kind old woman who was hard of hearing, so I was used to her moving about in the night and making noise. I remember the first night I heard her moving at night, I rushed out of my room with a baseball bat in my boxers, ready to fight off a would-be intruder, except, of course, no one was in the apartment. When I told the poor old lady about it the next day, she informed me the walls are very thin and I probably just heard her moving at night. Don't bother checking on it unless you hear the door open, all right? Trust me, your door squeaks so damn loud, even I can hear it, she said with a kindly laugh. And if your windows are anything like mine, Sammy, the only way someone is going in through those is if they break 'em. Thing won't budge. Keep telling my grandson to come up and fix it. Her ride was pulling up the curb with a polite honk. She smiled. Don't worry about it unless you hear the door, kiddo. I remembered that any other night I heard bumps and thuds that I remembered that night as well. Sure, it was an odd hour, but the old lady had odd habits. Wasn't the first time she was moving around this late. I was ready to dismiss the idea completely when I heard a new noise from the apartment. Another set of shuffling steps, and then a clang. This made me put down the controller. I knew that sound. It was the sound of the frying pan I'd left out, falling off the counter in the kitchen below me. Then more shuffling, and my wife stirred behind me. Sam, what was that? She asked without opening her eyes. I don't know. I'm going to go check it out, I said, getting up from the chair. I took a few steps to the door and reached for the bat I kept behind it. I'll be right back. I turned around slowly and opened the door to the dark hallway, and said nothing. I let out a sigh, and then I saw something move in the darkness. Adrenaline shot through me. I grasped the bat with white knuckles, but nothing else happened. Nothing charged me, and I was safe. But I still heard something on the stairs. I slowly turned the corner to check the stairs and reached for the light switch. I flipped the switch. I didn't see anything at the bottom of the stairs. A howl came over the house and I froze. Adrenaline pumped through me. Then it faded away, and I realized I had become so wound up that the damn wind had spooked me. I collected myself and descended the stairs, letting the bat fall to my side. I got to the living room and looked about. I didn't see anyone or anything down here, but somehow, when I looked up into the kitchen, I saw the frying pan sitting upright in the middle of the floor, far from the counter. I raised my bat again and approached it, slowly. I bent down to pick it up, and then I heard a new sound from behind me. Breathing, in my ear. I spun and swung the bat in the same motion, and it clipped something with a thud. It crumpled to the ground with a yelp of pain, an awfully familiar yelp of pain, and then a string of curses. Sam, what the hell? My poor wife held her arm. I dropped the baseball bat and brought my hands up to my mouth. Holy shit, I'm so sorry. I crouched down to my wife and held out my hand. Are you all right? Yeah, I'm fine. You missed my head at least, she chuckled. Gonna have a ball at the office telling people how I got this bruise. My face went hot from embarrassment. You know Jamie's never gonna let that one go, Carly. I helped her up. Well, that sounds like a personal problem, doesn't it? She looked at me and rubbed her arm, and then a cold breeze brought a look of confusion over her face. Darling, did you open the window? She asked. with a shiver. My face went from red hot with shame to white with fear. No, I said, darting to the window. I reached the window in the living room and closed it. Why hadn't I noticed that before? Had it been open before? Something slammed against the window with a crash, hard enough to almost shatter the glass. Then I heard its gurgling, strained breathing. I saw its hideous, inhuman face. Dead, black eyes stared at me with a gnarled face out of a nightmare. It wasn't human. My head hurt just looking at it. I couldn't see movement where its mouth should be, if it even had a mouth, but it spoke to me through the glass. "I'll be right back," it said to me in my voice, a twisted echo of what I said earlier, down to the intonation. It stared at me for a long moment before disappearing right before my eyes. I stood there, petrified, until I came to and rushed to the phone to call the police. We didn't stay there that night, and didn't return until the morning. The police had come and gone. Being unable to find any signs of a break-in dismissed the whole thing as a prank call. My neighbor was waiting for us outside that foggy morning as we rolled back in. She approached us, more stern than I have ever seen her. "You went and investigated the sounds, didn't you, boy?" she said. Her head shook. "I thought I told you, don't look unless you hear the door." "What was that?" I asked. "You don't want to know. Just do what I said, and don't look unless you hear the door open." She strode back to her door and paused, then looked back. "It's what I do when I hear 'em. Start locking your bedroom door. It knows you know now." I didn't know what this thing is. I don't know what it's capable of, but I lock my door at night and deadbolt the front of the back door. I've got alarms on the windows. I still hear the noises, though. So, if you ever hear noises in your apartment at night, and you can't explain it, and there's no way someone could have broken in, be careful. Just to be safe, stay in bed. Close your eyes, try your best to ignore it, and don't go looking for it.